नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिहिल करीम अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Dear students, welcome again in Pakistan International School Taif, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Virtual Learning System Session 2020. This is English for grade 7. From today, we are going to start Othello and other short stories from Shakespeare's play. This is your novel book. These are the short stories. These are not the full plays. These are the parts of the plays. So today is lecture number 29. So we will start from chapter number 1, Othello. The name of the story is Othello. We'll do the reading and explanation. The story is covered in 16 pages, page 1 to 16, and we'll do the exercise also. We'll see if we can finish it in one lecture or in two. So let's start. I'm your teacher, Sir Adnan Sabir Mirza. So here we start the story. Before starting the story, let me tell you that Shakespeare is famous for his novels, especially. He was also a poet, but he is called the father of English literature. His different and unique story types are still very interesting and people used to copy them. So here is the title of the book. Hope you have these stories. If you like these stories, you can go for the full novels and stories. There are also movies available on YouTube and other sources. So I'll increase the size. Yes. Number 1, Othello. It is chapter wise. A brave soldier. Dear students, this story is from very old times. It is almost 400 years ago. So the names and some sentences are from the ancient English. So being a student of English literature as well, also from the language, you must know these things. Brabantio, a rich senator of Venus, had a beautiful daughter, the gentle Desdemona. She was so beautiful and rich that many men wanted to marry her. But she did not love any of the handsome and wealthy young men of the Venus. Venus is the name of city. She thought that a man's character and mind were more important than his age or his appearance. She chose for her lover a foreigner, a Moor from North Africa, whom her father often invited to his house. The noble Moor was a brave soldier. He had fought for the Venetian. Venetian means of the Venus, belonged to the Venetians in their wars against the Turks, and had become a general in the Venetian army. The state thought highly of his abilities and trusted him. His name was Othello. So this is the introduction. Now the next paragraph. Othello was not a young man, but he was a very interesting person. As a soldier, he had traveled far and fought in many different countries. Desdemona loved to hear him tell stories of his adventures. He would talk of the battles he had fought and the dangers he had faced on the land and sea. On land and sea. He had been taken prisoner by the enemy and sold into slavery. Then he had escaped. He spoke of the strange things he had seen, the great deserts, mountains reaching right up into the clouds, savage people who ate the bodies of their enemies, and a race of people in Africa whose heads grew not on their shoulders, but in their chests. So these things were strange, which were told by Othello to Desdemona. These travelers tales greatly interested Desdemona. Whenever Othello visited the house, she would get her work done as quickly as possible so that he could sit down and listen to him. One day, when he had been telling her about his life, she told him that she wished to live the same kind of life as he had lived. Taking this opportunity, Othello told Desdemona that he loved her. She agreed to marry him. Brabantio had always told his daughter that she was free to choose her own husband as she pleased. She had expected that, like all noble Venetian ladies, she would choose a man of high rank and of her own race and color. But Desdemona loved the move. He was brave, strong, noble, and important man in the city, and an exciting man to be with. To her, the fact that he was an older man and a foreigner was of no importance. The two decided to marry at once in secret. Their marriage did not remain a secret for long. Othello had an enemy called Iago, who was a soldier in the Venetian army. Iago had hoped to become a senior officer. Three of the most important people in the city had asked Othello to give him this position, but Othello had already chosen someone else, a man called Michael Cassio. Iago had been given a much less important post, and he was very displeased about it. It seemed so unfair. He told his friend Rodrigo that Othello had seen how well he had fought in Rhodes, Cyprus, and other places. He could not understand why Othello liked Cassio better. Michael Cassio is a clever man, said Iago, but he has never fought in the battle in his life. Iago hated Othello. He was angry that Othello had not made him a senior officer. He was jealous of Othello's military success. He had also heard people say that Othello had made love to his wife Emilia. Next page, page 3. Iago told Rodrigo that he would serve in the army under Othello and that he would appear to do his duty and be friendly, but he would only do these things for his own purposes. The truth was he wanted to make trouble for the move. Move means Othello. Now you see the conspiracy, the enmity, the problem everything is discussed. I'm sorry. So like a movie, like a drama, you can see the different aspects. This is to make you a mature thinker. Although these values are against Islamic values, but being a student of the language, you are being taught or being taken through these stories so that you can understand the language, the mystery, the suspense of the story, also the language, and also think about the values the non-Muslims have. So we should not be impressed with their style, but we should see them to correct ourselves, to keep ourselves correct. So always we should be on the track. The next chapter is the Turks in Cyprus. On the night of Othello's secret marriage to Desdemona, Iago and Rodigo went to Brabantio's house. They told him what had happened. Now, they informed Desdemona's father. Brabantio went mad with anger. He complained to the rulers of Venus about him. He was a powerful man and they had to listen to him. At a meeting of the Senate, Brabantio accused the Moor of using witchcraft to make Desdemona marry him. He was very surprised that Desdemona had agreed to accept Othello as her husband. He believed that unless someone had put some sort of magic spell on her, she would never have married him without asking for her father's consent first. Consent means permission. Othello, speaking simply and plainly, told the Senate what had happened. He admitted that he had married Desdemona, but denied that he had used any evil means to make her love him. Everyone believed him. At that time, Venus urgently needed Othello's military assistance and would not do anything against it. Even while the discussion about Othello's marriage to Desdemona was taking place, news arrived about the Turkish fleet. Fleet means the group of ships. It was on its way to attack the island of Cyprus. Island is Jazeera, which in those days belonged to Venetians. In this hour of danger, Othello was the only man the state trusted to lead the Venetian army against the Turks. Turks, the Turkish people. Brabantio was urged to accept the marriage, as it had already taken place. He, however, insisted that Desdemona tell her story. If she said that she had married Othello willingly, he would withdraw his charges. Willingly means with her own heart, without any external pressure. Page 4. Desdemona then spoke to the Senate. She told them how much she loved and respected her father, but said she now had a greater duty to Othello, her lord and husband. In the same way, her mother had respected Brabantio more than her own father. Old Brabantio, unable to do anything else, gave his daughter to Othello, saying that he was glad he had no other children to disappoint. Definitely, a father is disappointed when the children deceive them or deceive or disappoint. Once all these difficulties had overcome, Othello readily agreed to go to Cyprus and take command of the Venetian army there. Desdemona decided to go with her husband. Othello had to leave immediately. He asked Iago, whom he thought was a friend, to take Desdemona safely to Cyprus in another ship that would leave a few days later. Iago's wife, Emilia, would be her serving woman. Brabantio, although he had accepted the marriage between Othello and Desdemona, was not happy about it. He warned Othello that Desdemona might deceive her husband as he had deceived her father. Iago's evil plan. Shortly before Othello reached Cyprus, there was a violent storm at sea. This caused great concern for Othello's safety, but it brought good news too. The governor of Cyprus was informed that the same storm had destroyed almost all the Turkish fleet. This was page 5. As the governor was standing by the shore, shouts were heard in the distance. The Venetian ship carrying Iago and Desdemona had arrived. It was a fast ship, and although it had not left Venice until after the others, it had reached Cyprus quickly. Othello's ship had been driven off course by the storm. Off course means out of the way. Course means the way of when somebody lose his direction. But it arrived in Cyprus soon afterwards. When they were on shore, Othello and Desdemona greeted each other tenderly. Tenderly means softly. Saying that Desdemona would receive a warm welcome, Othello led his beautiful young wife to the governor's castle. Among the welcoming party, watching their arrival, was Othello's lieutenant Michael Cassio. Cassio was a friend of Othello and Desdemona. He was young and handsome, taking messages from one to the other before they had married. Othello was very thankful for his help, since he himself was not used to the kind of gentle conversation which pleased ladies. He had often sent Cassio to Brabantio's home, and it was no surprise that Desdemona looked on him as one of their closest friends. The courageous Othello. Courageous means brave. It is from courage. The courageous Othello, being of a serious nature, was happy that Desdemona and his friend Cassio could talk and laugh together. Iago, who had come to Cyprus with Desdemona, was jealous of Cassio as much as he was jealous of Othello. He often made fun of Cassio as a man who he said was fit only for the company of ladies. Iago formed an evil plan for revenge. He would make trouble between Cassio, the Moor, and Desdemona, and bring ruin to them all at one and the same time. Ruin means destruction, the fighting, the problems, the misunderstandings. Iago was cunning. He understood the way people think. He knew that of all the pains which cause trouble between people, the pain of jealousy was the sharpest sting. Sting is the biting or the pinching, like the ant sting or the demo sting, okay, or the mosquito sting. And he knew Othello had a free and open nature, which could easily be influenced. Influence means it can be affected. By making Othello jealous of Cassio, Iago would have his revenge. The general's wedding, his arrival in Cyprus with his lady, and the news of destruction of the enemy fleet were all good reasons for a special holiday. Wine flowed freely as everyone celebrated. Cassio was an officer of the guard. He had orders to keep the Venetian soldiers from drinking too much, to avoid any quarrels that would frighten the people of Cyprus. The drinking party. This is the next chapter. That night, Iago began his evil plan. He told Rodrigo that he thought Desdemona and Cassio were lovers. This made Rodrigo angry because he had once loved Desdemona himself and he had wanted to marry her. Iago told Rodrigo that Cassio was a very quick-tempered man. Quick-tempered means fast to react, become angry very early. If Rodrigo did something to make Cassio angry, there would be a fight, and Iago could use this to bring Cassio into disgrace. Rodrigo, who now hated Cassio as much as Iago, did agree to help. Later that evening, Iago went to see Cassio, taking some wine with him. He knew Cassio did not like drinking, but Iago pretended he wanted to drink to the health of Othello and Desdemona. He invited Cassio to drink with him. As Cassio was the friend of newly married couple, he could not refuse. Iago filled Cassio's cup with wine again and again. One or two other people joined in, including the governor of Cyprus. They drank wine and sang songs together. The more Cassio drank, the more he talked and the more excited he became. After a while, Cassio had to leave the drinking party.
Iago then told the governor that although Cassio was a good soldier, he often got drunk in the evening. At that moment, Rodrigo walked by. Iago told him to go after Cassio. Please. Soon there was the sound of someone shouting, "Help! Help!" A moment later, Rodrigo went running past with Cassio, looking very angry behind him. The governor went to stop Cassio, but Cassio attacked him too and wounded him, and then tried to fight everyone else. Iago, who had started all the mischief, quietly told Rodrigo to go and ring the castle bells. Othello heard the noise and came with a group of gentlemen to see what was happening. Othello questioned Cassio, who said nothing. He was too ashamed to reply. Iago seemed to be unwilling to say what Cassio had done. He pretended to make Cassio's offense seem small. Pretend means to act as, to do acting. He knew that if he did that, people would think he was protecting Cassio. Then they would imagine that what Cassio had done was really quite bad. Othello could see that Cassio had behaved disgracefully. He said, Cassio, in this way, one part of Iago's plan had succeeded. His rival Cassio had been disgraced and removed from the position as a senior officer. But further use was to be made of the adventure of that night. Next chapter, Othello's jealousy. Now the plan is working. Cassio told Iago, whom he still thought was his friend, that he was sorry for his foolish behavior. He knew he had made Othello angry. He wanted to get his position back, and he asked Iago what he should do. Pretending to be friendly, Iago advised him to ask for Desdemona's help. She could plead his case to Othello. He said, and Othello would do anything that Desdemona asked. Desdemona would be able to restore Cassio to the general's favor. General Othello. General, who is general? General is Othello. This was a good advice, but it was given for a wicked purpose. Now you see what Iago is doing. He is planning, and his plan is working, but it is negative. If Cassio did as Iago had suggested, then Iago planned to make Othello himself ask himself why his wife was pleading for Cassio. Iago would then get Othello to believe that Desdemona had fallen in love with Cassio. This Iago knew would make Othello very unhappy. Cassio followed Iago's advice. The next day he went to see Desdemona and asked for her help. Desdemona promised Cassio that she would do everything in her power to help him. She said that she would give Othello no peace until he pardoned Cassio. Pardoned means forgive, to ignore. ignore his fault. Soon afterward, Desdemona spoke to Othello, asking him to forgive Cassio. She showed him how sorry poor Cassio was. She said it was unfair that Cassio should be given such a hard punishment. My lord, she said, you know that before we were married, Cassio often came to talk to me about you. He always defended you when I was displeased with anything you had done. Now I am defending him from, from your displeasure. Really, I think this is very little thing to ask. If ever I want to test your love, I will ask a much more serious favor. Othello could not say no to his wife. He finally agreed to do as she wished. Othello and Iago had entered the room together just as Cassio was leaving it after his conversation. With Desdemona, Iago, full of cunning, said in a low voice, as to himself, I do not like that. I do not like that. At the time, Othello took little notice of what Iago had said, but when Desdemona had gone, he remarked it. He remembered it. I think we should complete this this heading in this way by his little remarks, cleverly planned questions, replies that were not as sincere as a fiend, and annoying reminders of Othello's own words. Iago gradually persuaded Othello to just trust the friendship between Cassio and Desdemona. Slowly, Othello began to think there must be some meaning in all this, for he considered Iago an honest man. To himself, he thought, why did I marry? This honest creature, Iago, probably sees and knows more, much more than he reveals. However, he wanted to be sure. To Iago, he said later, I know that my wife is beautiful, loves company, and feasting. Feasting means eating, feast. Enjoys conversation, sings, plays, and dances well. But in someone who is of good character, there is nothing wrong with any of this. I must have proof before I think he is dishonest. Iago declared that he had no proof of Desdemona's unfaithfulness. He only begged Othello to watch her behavior closely, and he said nothing, not to be jealous. At the same time, he cunningly, clever with the negative intention, hinted that Venetian women married to men of high rank were often unfaithful to their husbands. He reminded Othello that Desdemona had deceived her father in marrying him. Othello was persuaded by this argument. Argument means the reason. If she had deceived her father, might she not deceive him, her husband? Othello was full of grief when he thought about these things, but he refused to believe that Desdemona was false to him. However, he took Iago's advice. He delayed his pardon of Cassio in order to observe Cassio's behavior with Desdemona. In this way, another part of Iago's evil plan began to work. Othello was already unhappy, and Iago intended to trap Desdemona through her own goodness. Now, the next part will be the handkerchief. We will, inshallah, continue with the in the next lesson. So till now, take care. Goodbye. See you in the next lecture. Assalamu alaikum.